everyone. I'm Joseph Phillips, the founder of Pure Management Alliance. Welcome to another video in our series talking with the different instructors in the Pure program. Today, it's my pleasure to have my friend Dave Westgarth join us. Dave, welcome.
Hey, Joe, thanks very much for having me on. And I can assure you it's my pleasure more than it's yours. It's great to talk to you again.
Very good to see you. Why don't you introduce yourself to our audience? Let's tell people where you are in the world and what your background is and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you've touched on, I'm Dave. I live in the northeast of England. I'm in the beautiful city of Sunderland at the moment. And we've got the best football team in England. So please come and check those guys out. They're all really good. And I'm currently a delivery manager in a software consultancy in the UK, and I've worked in all sorts of roles in technology. I started as a developer, did some time as an analyst and a business analyst, and eventually found my way into project management. And that was actually when I first came across you, Joe. You were one of the first courses or sort of learning and development efforts I ever did in project management, your CAPM course back in the day.
Wow, very good.
And just to date or so, I think it was about 10 years ago, actually. So time's really getting on for us now.
I know I've been involved with PMI since 2003 and had a meeting today and said that out loud. And it's like, wow, that's a long time to be teaching project management. And it's funny how many people tell me things like that, like, oh, it was 10 years ago, or like, did I have hair then? I don't think I did.
No, I think that's been a bit longer than 10.
Okay.
You're right. As soon as people say that 2000, like when I talk to colleagues now and they tell me, oh, I was born in 2000, I'm like, just stop.
Yeah,
I
right.
don't need to hear that.
Suddenly feel very old, right? Yeah. I put on like YouTube music on, and I'll say, let's put on some 80s. So my generation. So I put that on, and then it comes up like oldies. And, like, oh my gosh, that's not an oldie. Yeah, it's so funny. Yeah, I'm still in about 16 in my brain, I think.
You still look the part. That's the main thing.
Yeah. So you do project management right now, and what's your industry with IT?
Yeah, so I work primarily in technology and IT projects and project management. The title I've got at the minute is delivery manager, and I'm talking about that a little bit more on LinkedIn, but it's very much aligned or related to project management in some ways.
Sure.
And a lot of what we do is sort of, with us being a consultancy, we're typically there to do the hard stuff or the really new stuff. And thankfully, I've been on a lot of the really new stuff, which has been good.
Sure.
So lots of cloud-focused projects, lots of data-focused projects, and of course, the flavor of the month for the past 10 months in a row, AI, which is just pervasive everywhere now.
What do you think about AI in project management? Do you think AI is going to, well, I don't know about replace, but to what extent do you think AI will supplement our role as PMs?
I've got two sort of takes on this, and one of them is a bit of a hot take, so I'll be interested to see what you think. But the first one is we're clearly all aboard the hype train at the minute. There's a lot of flatter and to deceive going on, I think. I think AI is helpful, useful, can do a lot. Certainly can't do the job of a project manager. But that leads us on to my second point. If as a project manager, what you're doing is the sort of transactional document creation stuff, like you send status reports, you manage a RAID log, you create a couple of decks, you move some tickets around on Jira, AI probably is going to replace you because AI can do all of that. You need to sort of broaden your horizons and elevate your thinking around how else can I add value, create an impact, and basically get more done as a project manager over and above what AI now enables you to do.
I agree. I think that, it was a conversation I had with another Pure instructor not too long ago. I won't name names, but we were talking about AI and how there's a lot of hype around AI right now. It's kind of a gold rush mentality. And it is amazing the depth of AI, the things that you can do. Like I was just in Las Vegas, and at the Sphere, the big bubble, out off the Strip, they have these robots that are AI generated. They can look at you and talk to you, and you can ask them questions, and they'll respond in real time. And it's pretty amazing. But I don't see AI having that human connection that we need. I feel like we need in project management. So much of project management is stakeholder engagement and communication, and certainly reports, emails, things like that. The other thing I think that's really complex, where I'll have to see it to believe it, little doubting Thomas here, is if we have a list of activities we have to get done to get from start to finish, and I can dump that into AI, for it to sequence those, to know the capability of the team, to predict, dates, deadlines, constraints, bottlenecks, get into the whole float or better timelines, then I'll be impressed. I haven't seen that, in action, or at least that really works well. Not that I've spent, weeks studying AI, but because every project's different and every resource is different. You've got other constraints outside of the project. So that's, some of the things that you need, that, that tacit knowledge that only comes by experience or being in the project.
Yeah.
But yeah, the transactional, go ahead.
It's really interesting you touch on that human element, because when I talk to people who are getting into project management, when I think about my principles, sort of principle one is build relationships and get people to like you as quickly as you can.
Right.
Because typically as project managers, we're going to ask people to do stuff when they really don't want to do it. We're going to have to pull them when they don't want to be pulled.
Yeah.
And I remember working in a call center when we missed sales targets for a few months, and the sort of thinly veiled threat was, if we can't improve the numbers, we'll get an automated dialer just to dial out to customers and see how that does. And I think it's very similar to what you've touched on there. People aren't going to listen to a robot pitch them a sale. And if a robot project manager asks them to work the weekend, they're never going to say yes. You need a relationship there. You need to be able to influence and do a bit of transactional deal making. Can you work this weekend and I can make this happen for you? And I don't see how we're going to get around that without that human element as of right now.
Yeah. And maybe technology will prove us wrong and that comes into being, but I just don't, I think that, reports and spreadsheets, certainly email, great help. But to replace the role of the PM and that real touch that you need, especially as things change so quickly. Are you doing Agile on your projects?
Yeah, it's sort of the staple ways of working for us is Agile. With it being technology and emerging technology, it's very hard to plan it all out up front. So
then you can imagine AI trying to do, Agile and prioritize things and, the backlog. You need to understand the business to prioritize. So there's a lot of gaps there that I see. I just haven't bought into the hype yet. Maybe that's...
And like you touched on, almost a little bit like a change management feel. I've got no doubt that AI could change the tasks, resequence the events, crunch the numbers week in, week out. But managing the expectations within the team and getting them to buy into that plan, I don't see how an AI is going to bridge that gap. I think we're safe for the minute, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. I totally agree. I think there's just so much that we have to be immersed in a project. You have to know everything. And certainly AI can categorize that knowledge, but if it can do it or not. I wasn't intending to talk about AI today, but it's such a fascinating topic. And I think we're seeing that in all areas. I just saw some videos today of like different movie stars hanging out. That would be impossible. Just, some have passed and some, are still alive, how they're like hanging out, talking or having a cup of coffee or whatever. And at first I was like, oh, no way, I didn't know these two. And then you realize this is totally fake. It's totally AI generated. So it's getting better and better, but it still doesn't have that human connection. Better and better, or scarier and scarier, depending on how you look at it.
I think the nice thing is, even though, as you say, it's getting better and it's improving, I still think most people are able to detect that uncanny valley fairly quickly. I don't think it's quite at the level where I can't tell the difference anymore, which is a bit of a relief in some ways.
Yeah, exactly. You always look at the fingers, right? They always look weird. Yeah. or some of the text will be backwards, like the guy had a badge on and it was all like the text was all garbled.
Well,
Like, all right, this
I'll tell you
is
one thing I like about the AI images. They're incredibly flattering. So if you want to play around and get a nice boost to your ego, get some AI generated images done.
Sure. I put mine in there and it came back as just an egg. It's strange.
I don't believe it.
Not true. I did put my dog in there. So, you see that, like, make my dog human or whatever. And so I have a little Frenchie, and it came back as this grumpy old lady. I'm like, oh, it's pretty accurate. Do that. Well, let's talk let's switch gears before we get in trouble here. Let's talk about your course in the Pure program. Why don't you introduce people to your course, and what will they get if they enroll and complete your course?
Great. So there were 2 courses that I covered. The first one was Mastering Agile Retrospectives. This was one that's really close to my heart, and I'm a firm believer if you're coming from a traditional project management background and you want to sort of dip your toe in the waters of Agile, the number one practice that you should embed is regular retrospectives.
Right.
I think it's the quickest way to see a return on your investment for that Agile ways of working. And the thing I really like is, especially for sort of those traditional project managers, we've always done lessons learned, but we've sort of always done that at the end when it's over and we all just want to get out of there now.
Yep.
I think retrospectives make a lot more sense because now we're going to do them at regular intervals in the project and we can harness the value of that learning and that experience as we're doing the work, which is, you sort of can't believe we didn't get that from day one in some ways, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, that's so true, that lessons learned, it's often too late. There could have been something brought up that'd be an easy fix or make an adjustment, and instead you suffered through it because you just didn't have that opportunity, baked into the approach. So retrospectives, even if you're not in an agile environment, I think that retrospectives, periodically, if you're still in predictive, the end of a phase, or at the end of a month, even in a predictive, what's working or what's not, or what can we do more of?
Yeah, we all know projects always go perfectly to plan. So that's where retrospectives can come in, just to make sure you're still on track.
Right.
But you're right, and lessons learned as well. The thing that always sort of frustrated me when I was that traditional project manager role was we did that session and then we'd either create a page on Confluence or we'd write it into a PDF, and it would just get filed away. We'd never look at it again. And I'm sort of
so why bother?
Why are we doing this if that's the case?
Yeah, just a waste of time.
Yeah, whereas retrospectives, not only do you talk about what's going well, what's not going well, what you could change, you design actions, experiments, next steps that you're going to predict and hope will make a valuable impact in your project as it's going on, which is, again, another reason I think they make a lot more sense.
Yeah, it seems, I think so much of project management is logical, but sometimes that logic is, or that common sense is overlooked, that we've seen forever and ever in predictive, that especially as we've gotten away from this command and control mentality where we want feedback and participation in those decisions, even in predictive, or primarily in predictive, that there has to be some opportunity to listen to your team and to make adjustments, or if the team members have an opportunity to talk to each other and make adjustments, and to be real world or to be down to earth about it. So it's a great course. How many PDUs is it? Refresh my memory.
Oh, good question. I think it's just around the 3 mark, because it's about a 3 hour long course.
I started to say 3.5, something like that. So it's a great course. It's very practical. You can take the knowledge from it and apply it today in your project. And then introduce your second course as well.
So the second course was actually a real pleasure. And I think this was actually a brainchild of you, if I remember right, because we got through the course and you said, would you like to do another one?
Yeah.
And I sort of said, well, what have you got in mind? And you proposed something around lean and lean delivery. And I thought, well, this is great. I haven't looked at lean for a while. And I'm really, really glad that I signed on to do lean delivery in action, because going back to the well of lean, and I talk about this in the course, but lean isn't just a story of project management methodologies or delivery methods. It's really a human story in a lot of ways, because lean itself has evolved at this point over hundreds and hundreds of years. You can trace it all the way back to the Venetian Navy and maybe even further back than that. And that was again, a question I sort of struggle with in the course. Where do I start this history lesson from? Because it's so hard to pin down where these really emerged. And again, there's a lot of history and theory around what happens in Lean. But what I try to do through this course is arm you with a lot of practical tools, approaches, strategies, and experimentations that you can run within your teams and your projects. And try and introduce a new sort of Lean-powered toolkit that you can bolt onto your existing project management skills. Yeah. There'll be bits in there that you can use straight away. There'll be bits that might not fit your projects right now, but I hope it serves as a nice sort of catalogue of this is what's available to you as your projects evolve and as you move from thing to thing.
Yeah, I think Lean is such a fascinating set of tools that my favorite part of Lean is the idea that there's always a bottleneck, that it may be, a constraint that is tiny, but you keep refining and refining and refining. There's always something you can improve upon. There's always some goal setting that you can do in your projects. And then what you learn in this project, you can apply. You can immediately take that. You don't have to start from scratch. You can apply in your next one. So Lean is, even if you're not using the Lean methodology, there are so many nuggets in there that you can apply in your agile approach, your predictive approach, or even just your day-to-day work. That I think it's really valuable, that there are things you can take and apply today with Lean. Yeah,
and I say this quite a lot, but Lean's a bit of a grandfather on the agile side of the aisle, because if you look hard enough, you can sort of see the roots of where other agile things like Kanban, like elements of Scrum, like elements of DevOps come from. Like automation in DevOps, you can trace very easily back to self-regulating machines, which came from the Toyota production system, which traces its roots back to Lean.
Yeah,
and it was really nice to go back to that source and the well, and something that sort of dawned on us related to what you've just said. I sort of got the impression as I was going through, if you understand Lean really well and you've got a bit of a grasp on theory of constraints, that might be all you need to be a really effective change and project professional.
Oh, I agree. So I often tell people there's a book called The Goal, which is right, which is an excellent read if you're a project manager. We'll put a link in the description to this video. But it's a nice narrative, it's a nice story, but it's that idea of improving. There's always an opportunity to improve. And that if you're new to project management, you just want to see kind of the big picture or what the heck is project management and ease into it. It's such a great book to begin with. And you can get deeper and deeper into it. You can read it for the narrative, or you can really think about how it would apply where you work or where you would like to work.
Yeah. The thing I like about The Goal is it really contextualizes a lot of what you do as a project manager. It's not me teaching you how value stream mapping works anymore. You sort of, through the lens of that narrative, you can see how this applies in a really real way, even though it is slightly fictional.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of walking through or looking over someone's shoulder as it's in motion. So that's a great book. So Dave's 2 courses, I think that you should enroll in the Pure program. The entire program, you get 60 PDUs. 2 of those courses are for Dave, and you'll notice, like Dave described, these are smaller chunked courses that you can just chip away at. You don't have to take the whole program in 1 week. You've got a year to complete it. And so as you go through it, at the end of each program, you can claim your PDUs if you're a PMP or a CAPM or ACP. So you get those as you go. So we worked a little agile into our approach, right, Dave, that you get some intermittent value. You don't have to wait till the very end. It is a great program. We've right now, as of this recording, we've had well over 1,000 people go through the free program. That is kind of the foundation. It sets the vision for what Pure is. And if you are new to Pure, you're interested, just come over to puremanagementalliance.com and you can take the free 1-hour program that will give you a good foundation of what the framework and the vision of Pure is. And then you should enroll in the program and take these courses. That it's individuals like Dave that are real world, out in the field, doing the work and they're bringing their experience, much like the book we talked about, The Goal. It's kind of a narrative and a peek inside of how this actually applies in the real world, bridging that gap from a book or a class to real world application. Well, Dave, as we go through these different webinars with different instructors, I always kind of wrap things up by giving you an opportunity to give some real world advice to project managers out there or new PMs. So if you had like your favorite piece of advice that you would offer to people watching this, what would it be?
It's really interesting. There's sort of two I'll weave in because they are related. The number one thing or the immediate thing I think is never stop learning. And as a project manager, every project will be different. Every team will be different. Every organization you work with will be different. You'll sort of learn by osmosis, if not at all. But sort of the next stage to that, or the bolt on that I like to add to that, is approach your projects and your delivery initiatives with a bit of an experimentation mindset. I think you touched on it earlier, Joe. The stuff that you learn in previous projects, although your next project could be different, there'll be a lot of lessons learned there and a lot of things you'll think, I'll do this differently next time. Don't be scared to experiment with stuff and see how it goes. And retrospectives provide a really nice demarcation for you to think, okay, let's run this one, and in the retrospective, let's see how it went. And then we're going to adjust and continue to course correct. So not being afraid to step away from the textbook or the course or any sort of formal material you've done and give something a try is something I really try to encourage.
I like that. I agree with that. You reminded me of a lesson I learned early in my career. I came from an IT background. I was MCSE and taught the MCSE courses way back when. And I was working with a client and about how to figure out this problem. And the client says, okay, what we need is a clue. You got to have a clue. And you have that clue that then you can build on that and build on that and build on that and get this domino effect. You unsnap it, whatever the problem was with network drivers or, some of that nonsense. But that always stuck with me, that you pick up clues consciously and subconsciously in everything we do. So project management, all these different industries that you can move from project to project, and what you learn prior, you have a clue as to how that may work here. And some of that is, I think just our subconscious, that, like we talked about earlier, that tacit knowledge that you just know because and sometimes we have that you don't know what you know just because you've been doing it so long, you're so immersed in it. So just to be aware of that. Well, I think that is some great advice for people to take and to apply in their projects. If you'd like to learn more about Dave, you can find Dave on LinkedIn. I know he has a lot of great resources there. There's Dave's profile. I encourage you to connect with him. He has some excellent posts and different articles. I know you've got some Excel spreadsheets I've seen you put out there. So you have a lot of great resources for people that are interested. I'd also encourage you to come to puremanagementalliance.com and take the free course and get an introduction to Pure. I want to thank you for your time and attention. And Dave, I want to thank you for your time today and just have this little chat about Pure and project management.
Thank you very much for having me, Joe. It's been great to talk to you again.
Always good to talk with you, Dave. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.